DevOps speaker for the day comes with 25 plus years of experience in the IT industry. She has worked in both Fortune 50 companies as well as startups in diverse leadership roles. In a few moments, she's going to take charge of her screens to share her great thoughts on how to leverage DORA metrics to build high-performing teams. If you're wondering who's in the spotlight, it's none other than Miss Padma Satyamurthy. Let's all welcome the lovely lady. Over to you, Padma.
Hey there, this is Padma Satyamurthy. I would love to be presenting this topic in live format, but as we know, things are still getting better. But I really hope to come back and meet you all in person next year for our DOIS summit, which is going great over the last few years. And we are really able to reach a large number of audience with this format as well. And that makes us very proud. I am so grateful to our organizers, Niladri and his team, for putting all this together. Thanks to all the jury members who have been working hard over the last few months on picking up the topics, picking up the panel discussion topics and some of the awards that goes along with the DOIS. And all of you who are here to listen to this whole topic that I'll be discussing. And as we know, we have a chat window, so you can always put your question there and we will answer as many questions as possible and try to make it as interactive as possible, even in this virtual format. So thank you everyone for this opportunity and thank you for being here with me. So what we are talking about is all about metrics. And we all know metrics kind of is a topic not very comfortable. One, because it's very explicit. It's like what you see is what you get. There are no frills around it. And two, metrics are great when it looks great, but usually metrics don't look great. So everybody wants to have an excuse how to cover it up on something else and show something that makes you feel better rather than actually looking at the metrics, right? So nothing like explains that whole topic better than this Dilbert's cartoon. And we would love to have metrics, but we don't want to do everything that is really explicit about that metrics. That is how everyone wants to look at metrics. So what are we going to do? How are we going to do it differently just because we are now going to talk about DORA? Does something change from what we have been talking about metrics all this while? Has DORA made any difference? If it has made difference, what difference does it make and how? Is something what we are going to be discussing in the next 30 minutes. And we will see what some of the differences it has made to us, it has made to some of the other industry best practices, and even some of the organizations' performances using these very effectively. So this topic is going to cover a little bit on what is DORA, and which you already know. So I'm not going to go deep dive on the known topic here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how are we using DORA and what does our journey look like, and how are we going to how can you take it back as audience? How can you take back some of these things very seamlessly in your organizations if you want to start a journey that is more metrics and measurement driven rather than an assumption driven way of improving your practices and your processes and even your own dashboards, right? So that's how this whole event is. This whole talk is structured. So why do we measure, first of all? Let's come back, take a step backward and let us see, why do we measure? What is the reason why we need metrics for? We are all working. We work from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. Sometimes we end up working a little late, working a couple of hours on a weekend. So all of us are working. Like Edward Deming said that very smartly, that everybody is already doing their best. So is there a need to measure? Then everybody is already doing their best and doing a lot of work within the organization and within the team. There are different reasons why we measure, and different types of personas in an organization need metrics for looking at some of the values, right? Some of the leadership and the teams would like to measure quality. Hey, how are we doing on our defects? How soon are we fixing our defects? While some of the folks in the organization are very keen on knowing, hey, where are we with the respect to the budget? Are we doing well on the cost? Will we be able to finish this whole release within the cost that we have had? Or will we need more budget as we go forward? How are we performing in terms of our competition? What is the return of investment on the investments that we have made in our development programs that we have, feature developments and product developments? Are we building the right product? I need a feedback. I need a measurement that tells me, am I building the right product that the customers are looking forward to in the market? And also, as our organization grows, it starts becoming a lot more siloed and each one starts picking up their own practices. So we also sometimes end up like want to see with these measurements and metrics, how disciplined are we in our practices? Are we able to apply some of the best practices? Are we able to take the lessons learned from other teams so that we do not make the same mistake? So there are different reasons why different types of teams and personas and leadership have metrics dashboards and they monitor different things. But all of us at the end of the day are only interested in one thing. All of this leads to one thing, that is really what matters is, have we achieved what we set out to achieve? Are we in the winning position? Have we been able to get what we have started the journey with? And have we been able to hit the goal, like this picture says? So outcomes ultimately is really what matters. And then why metrics needs to be the right metrics, because only a good metric can tell you, are you really on the right track to achieve that you have set out to achieve? And if I'm not on the right track, what should I be doing so that I actually get back on the track in my journey, right? So ultimately, it's all about outcome that we all want to focus on. And then there are some metrics that look very good or just a number, right? If you're not doing anything about a metric, it only remains a number. Like typically, if you look at, like this is one of my favorite pictures. If you look at a weight, it tells you a little bit about your weight, right? Like whether you're a little on the overweight or underweight or you're correct, but it really doesn't tell you whether your body weight has more muscle component or it has a more fat component, or is it more bone weight in your body. It really doesn't reveal all of that. You need to dig deep into finding out, even if it's a correct weight, is it the right weight right quality of weight that you have, right? So you need a few things to deep dive to find out that. Similarly, any metric that we look at typically talks about metrics, only it's at the surface level. Only when we dig a little deeper do we know, hey, am I on the right track, and are we going in the right direction to achieve what we want to achieve? So how do we get that, and how have we been able to achieve this through DORA? So what is DORA? DORA, everybody knows, DevOps Research and Assessment. It was acquired by Google a couple of years ago, and Google has put in a lot of effort to build a lot of strength, not just in terms of benchmarking at the industry level. So it's no more just an assessment, the EA part, but there's a lot of research. The R has become very strong. There is a lot of research that is going on in this whole program that actually speaks about how you can not only benchmark yourself against the industry, but you can also actually look at a few things, dig deep dive, and help yourself to get better in your measurements, which ultimately impact your business outcomes. So let's move on to that part of the crux of the whole presentation. So the DORA metrics is all about 4 key metrics. If you just Google DORA, they talk only nothing but these 4 metrics: lead time for changes, time to restore, deployment frequency, and the change failure rate. These are the 4 key metrics. And from 2021 assessment, I'm sure all of you have seen it and read that. One thing that's really very good thing that has been brought out in that research is that DevOps and SRE cannot be siloed. They have to work hand in hand. If not, they are the same team working like a one team. Recently, we were talking in another conference, and I was talking, and somebody asked, should all these be under same manager? I said, see, in large organizations, it's not possible. But what we definitely would like to do is that we are extraordinarily collaborated with the SRE team as a DevOps organization so that we do not miss out on the reliability part of it, which actually tells us about the operational performance. While these 4 metrics tells us about the delivery performance of the products that we are developing, the operational performance comes to us from reliability. So in the 2022 assessments, I'm really looking forward to what DORA is going to come back and tell us how we are going to integrate the reliability pieces with the software delivery performance pieces as well, right? So what I have given here is a couple of things like the generic definitions, but we could discuss that itself in another conference, in another topic, like another 30 minutes. So DORA metrics is a very great balanced way of looking at things, although it's only 4 metrics. And I know that what can you do with just 4 metrics? Like I know a few organizations, I have been part of that guild also, where we had like 80 metrics, 75 metrics that actually help us to do a lot of things, but then reducing it to 4 metrics and then saying, hey, here is a balanced way. It may sound a cliche. So what we are also need to do here, which I'll cover in the subsequent slides, is that it's not all about this 4. A lot of times DORA actually becomes a North Star, right? We sometimes may take a lot of time to even get at a better deployment frequency or even how to measure my deployment frequency. But the good thing is that these metrics you can start very early if you have the right set of tools and if you're be a little disciplined in your updating your frequencies and your lead time and other things. But what it also looks at is that it's not only looking at throughput, what we say as the outputs, but it is also looking at stability. A lot of times when my frequency of deployment is increasing, for example, because of that, I may be overseeing and I may be producing more defects because my deployment frequency has increased. My integrations may be breaking somewhere. And so I may be producing a lot more defects. And because of which I have longer time to restore. I have a lot of bugs and I take longer time to restore my services, right? So this DORA as a dashboard will let us do is a balance between not only throughput, which we call is the speed, but also a fine balance with the stability, and together produce the reliability, which is actually outward facing, right? So if you look at throughput and stability, while stability is most of the times customer facing, even then it's a lot more internal metric that we look at. But reliability is what our customers are looking from us, right? Our customers want to know how reliable in every aspect of the applications that they are using from our side. So these ones ultimately help us to measure the reliability, quality of the reliability, and see where we are and come back and do the changes that we want to do with this, inside of these metrics. What comes inside of these metrics, which means, are these 4 enough? Are there something more that we need to look at? Of course, we need to look at. Deployment frequency is sometimes it's referred to as an output metric, right? It is a metric that you will measure after the work is done. It's not something you would measure while you're in between your coding or your testing phases, your coding and testing durations. So how do I know if my deployment frequency is not going great? What are some of the input metrics that I need to be looking for to improve my deployment frequency? What are some input metrics that I need to check out for? What are some capabilities I need to strengthen if I have to check out for stability in terms of mean time to restore, right? MTTR, what we call as. So this is what this whole DORA is right now doing and making a lot of difference to the way we do our metrics and measurements dashboards. So how do I measure? I know that these 4 are great and this is like how we want to measure, but how do I measure? So once you know that you have to, you know that you're measuring these 4 metrics at the outcome level, but you need to do a lot of things internally to see, am I measuring it very deep dive and not at the surface level? So what we have done is we have come up with a very lightweight approach, I'll call, and all of this is not actually, although it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all this happens in a span of 1 to 2 days, right? It's not like it takes a week and like couple of hours, and then the intensive coaching and then going back to the sustain phase. So it's a very smooth transition. But I have put it in this format so it's easy to kind of understand. And if you want to go back and take it into your organizations, it becomes much easier as well. So first we start with assessing, right? Where are we? What are the things that are right now happening in our own teams, in our own programs, right? So we have value stream mapping work and even open-ended workshops, right? Sometimes very brainstorming kind of workshops that we do so that we know what teams like actually had set out to achieve for the goal that we were talking in the first slides. What did I start my program with? And where am I with respect to it right now? And where will I be if I'm in the right direction, and where will I be if I'm not in the right direction? Then we benchmark it. We have our own organization-wide standards that we have set for ourselves. And we also map it with the industry standards and say, hey, here is how we measure against the standards. And here is where we have scope for improvement. And what this helps also is identifying the capabilities that are behind. I'll show you the capabilities in a bit. So what these capabilities that I need to improve on? I know my MTTR is not great, but what capabilities will help me to achieve the actual performance of MTTR if I improve these capabilities? So we do those predictive analysis and come up with additional measurements. So apart from this 4, we do have input metrics where we come up with a few measurements and say, here is how my MTTR can be improved. Maybe my test automation frequency, my test automation volume itself as a measurement will tell me if I'm able to improve my MTTR. My mean time to engage an associate will also help me to be more predictive in strengthening my MTTR. Then we engage with the teams for 6 to 8 weeks as part of the dojo, and we do an intense coaching with the team. And this is not a meeting. We are part of the team at this time. We attend all of the ceremonies and all of the talking times the teams have while we sit with them. So we do not add any meetings on their calendars, but we blend within them. So this is one of the things that the teams love is, oh my God, every time we say we are engaging with you, oh my God, does that mean more meeting time on our calendar? One thing we say is no meetings. We are part of the work you're already doing. We sit with you where you sit. And in the virtual world, we have created a few very interesting Slack channels and Zoom channels and Microsoft Teams to share the files, to share some of that, and even be part of the brainstorming sessions, whether it is backlog refinement or a sprint planning and other things. And we do the coaching as part of those sessions. And while we do this, how do we sustain after 8 weeks? We move out and we go to another team or another program. We develop internal champions who can actually focus on continuous improvement. We build some kind of a capability in them. We refer them if they are interested in some of the workshops that we conduct, or even external programs, external trainings that offered by other experts within the industry, and ask them to go and develop those champions so that they can sustain this whole effort for a long, long time and do their own innovations. And ultimately, which I've not put in this diagram, is we blend them into the community of practice, COP, that we have, where the COPs, it's like a cross-pollination. After that, actually, we have very little work. The community of practice runs on its own. The team members, the associates are very happy to do it on their own. They run the programs. They bring back some case studies. They bring back some lessons learned from their own failures and other things, share it with the rest of the community, and people learn, people ask questions. It's like multiple meetups that we have within a week, or sometimes within a month, multiple meetups we have to share all of these things with the rest of the teams, so that the whole effort becomes very sustainable within an organization. Some of the sample assessment, this is one of the templates. In fact, I would love to do a workshop on this. If this was not a regular talk conference, but more a workshop-based conference, we could have broken out into team rooms and we could have actually done this. It's a very simple exercise. What can we do as a team, and what is our goal actually, and how do we know we are successful? Some of the measurements that you are already measuring, and how will we track it? What are the sources of these measurements, and do we know? And all these are interconnected, so we are not going outside of these 4 boxes. So sometimes multiples of this printout sometimes works in the classroom, right? When we do a brainstorming assessment, so people fill it and then they say, oh no, this is not correct. Then they throw the paper out and they fill it again. So it's a fun exercise when we do it in a breakout room or in a classroom kind of a session. So I hope to come back and do that live with you guys sometime soon. And then we do a very structured value stream mapping. I have put a very sample here, but this can go on for a couple of hours, sometimes even 3 to 3.5 hours, because the teams start getting engaged, because we have seen a lot of things from this assessment, right? We start going deep into hey, now how will we track it? We don't know how to track it. Let us do a value stream mapping. Let us break it into smaller pieces so we know how to track it. How do we know we are successful? I don't know. Let us do a value stream mapping. Then let us see if we are able to find out some of the gaps, and let us see if that can be improved. So value stream mapping as a next level helps us to deep dive. So if you see, some of the things takes a day or a 1 hour, or actually which could ideally should be taking like 10 minutes, and we are taking 1 hour. Something that ideally could be taking a 3 hours is taking 1 day. So now I know I'm measuring, but all these days, but I was not sure whether we are successful. And here it tells me, hey, here are some gaps and some low hanging fruits that we could pick up. So there are two things that happens here. One is you also identify a lot of systemic impediments, which are, when I say systemic impediments, it's at the org level. So teams may not be able to do this on their own. Teams may have to actually raise it at the organization level and ask the organization to look into it. And sometimes there are on another one variation of the same systemic impediments is the team impediments, which the team can very smoothly go ahead and cover up for that and make up for those things and correct themselves on a continuous improvement mode. So we identify both of these systemic impediments. We put it on the organization portal for the organizations to look at it, and a different level of discussion happens at that. And here is where the teams take their own decisions, the autonomy they have, and they drive a few of the things on their own. Right? Once we have done this, we start benchmarking. I have put some dummy metrics here just to show. I have put some variations. I've created something so you know where you are. And sometimes we do not have some of the things. Like, for example, my change failure rate is showing as 0. Then I go back and ask, how could it be possible from March to June? I'm really having 0. Is that possible? So then you have some kind of a discussion. Then you can go back to the same brainstorming as sheet and start brainstorming about why this is happening or why am I not. So we have some goals. And if you look at the goal part, right? So there are some goals there. And we also know where we are with respect to these goals. And then we go back and again brainstorm. So this becomes part of the overall weekly, bi-weekly kind of discussions with the team. And that is how we sustain the in-program practices that we build as what we call as hygiene practices within the teams, right? Once we benchmark, we have actually borrowed a lot from the Google DORA research program. So this is actually, in a minute, I'll also go to the actual picture, actual website for this. And I have shared the link for you guys, so you can also go ahead and do it. So we have taken and we have built our own in-house playbook, which is a lot more focused on our organization and our industry specific, so that it's not, while the generic practices come from here, a lot of it has been customized in our own playbook, but we have learned a lot from the DORA research papers and DORA research outcomes, and we have brought it back into our organizations, right? So if you want to look at the PDF version, it's a little more. So what it does is, like, if these lines, they are not just lines, but they tell you how each of these capabilities are connected, how they are not siloed out, but an organization is very complexly connected with each other. And you cannot try to improve something on your own just in a silo mode. It will impact a few other things, and you need to be aware. It's like the whole world is connected. There are no disjoints in this whole piece. And if you want to join, you have to work at a holistic level. So you can't just say, I'll improve my continuous integration and not look at other pieces. You will never be able to improve your continuous integration by just looking at one piece of it or two pieces of it. You have to get a 360-degree view of this and get this done. So this is the URL for this picture. It's called BFD, which is big funny diagram. So it's really big. That's why I have condensed it. Let me just take you to that page and show it to you how this looks in the real time, right? So here is where it goes. So so this is the big picture that we were talking about. So if you see, there is leadership related measurements like vision, inspirational communication. How are we doing it? How do I measure it? It will all take you deep. I'll show you where it all lies. It's a publicly available website here. And then you start, like, if you're more on like you're trying out a product development which is very new, and you want to do it in a lean way because you want to be ahead of your competitors. Some of the things you could do, how are the change approvals working, technical practices which are very, very DevOps focused, that is of interest to us, especially you look at some of the practices available, how that improves continuous delivery. But continuous delivery benefits are not just less burnout and less deployment pain, but it also has a big benefits on other pieces like SDO, organizational performance, and even organization culture and the work. So this is the big friendly diagram. The DORA BFD stands for. This is the bit.ly link for you. You can just copy paste it from here and go to this diagram. So let me actually take you to the diagram and show you. So as you see, this is called BFD for a reason, big friendly. It's very friendly because it's easily readable and understandable. Everything is connected, but at the same time, it's very big. If you look at, like, I'm at 33% and we are still not able to see this picture all in one screen. So here is how we actually look at it, right? You can pick up any part of the development you want to say. You are developing a new feature or a new product. You do not have enough time and you want to do it in a lean fashion because you want to get fast feedback. You can look at this picture. But at the end of the day, it's not a silo. It actually helps to build your organization culture. It also impacts on your identity. It impacts your organizational performance. It improves some disaster recovery testing, everything around it. And it also has some inputs, right, from things like software delivery performance, right? It's not just about lean product development, but how is my performance after I deliver the software, right? So it's looking into that. The same way, if I want to look at technical practices, which is of very much interest to our DevOps community here, we really want to look at, we know that these are the things I need to do, but how does it impact? Of course, it improves my continuous delivery, but what else actually it can improve? It can result in less burnout for our team members. It can have it can be very less painful in terms of our deployment, less rework, which means teams start enjoying most. And then what happens? Our organization culture improves because of that. People's job satisfaction within the organization starts improving. So if you look at this framework, it's a very, very holistic framework. And you really can actually connect all the dots together that you want. It will take a bit of time. It won't happen overnight. Trust me when I say that, because we have been doing it for more than a year now and we are still not got into a big picture at all. But it will slowly help you connect the dots and you will start understanding the big picture of the work that you are doing and the work you are impacting, you are connecting. So this is a more interactive version of it. The PDF version is what you saw now when you click on this. So if you look at it, it will actually highlight a few things, which means if I want to improve my software delivery and operational performance, it will take me all the way to organizational performance. What are the other capabilities that it will improve or it will impact if I don't do it well? If your software delivery and operational performance is not great, it actually impacts the autonomy, trust, and the voice within the organization. It impacts the change approvals because now the leadership feels I need to control more because the delivery is not going well. So let me add a few more change approval processes so that I can control this, right? It's the other way impact that happens when things are. At the same time, if you want to look at technical practices, it impacts continuous delivery, it impacts transformation leadership. And then you go to transformational leadership, it will have few more things that you can look at. If you want to improve continuous delivery, a few of the capabilities. And in the same picture that I've given the link to you, if you scroll down, here are the capabilities that you can actually go through, read quite extensively and see for yourself how these things are impacting your organization. So coming back to the deck here, what we do is after the assessment, this is an example, for example, what I have taken. Say out of the 24 capabilities that are listed, these 3 capabilities are standing out. I need to improve on my continuous integration, which also kind of is impacting my continuous delivery. And there are a few pieces in terms of architecture that is actually impacting, right? I mean, I'm not able to know exactly what it is, but I need to improve on this. And for this, what we have done is we have developed a very intensive coaching book where the coaches sit with the teams to work on these 3 items. So this is something that I have taken as a piece from the playbook and said, if it is continuous integration, then you will have to look into these things and you need to measure these things. On the right side is what to measure, on the left side what to do is what we have put here. In the same way, if you want to improve your continuous delivery, then you know that a few of like I'm saying, there are 14 practices here technical. I'm not saying all that 14 needs to be looked at. You again need to prioritize what you want to practice, or you don't need to do everything here. Like you don't need to focus on TBD, tech-based development, shift left and everything, but pick up a 4 or 5 that really, really is key to you, that's like disturbing you a lot, and bring it back into your practice. Or if you think architecture is one of the other things that you need to look on, we have a few checklists that helps you to understand which type of architecture you have right now and what do you do about it. There is no right or wrong here, right? There is always something good about it. There is always something that's not so great about it. So we look at the pros and cons, and then we come up with what is ideal for my team, because what is one size will never fit all. What is right for my team will never be right for the rest of the teams and rest of the organizations. So we need to be customizing all of this. This is where the intensive coaching part helps, because it is so the whole continuous improvement plan is customized to the entire team, and it is very, very specific to them. So this is an ongoing exercise, and what worked for you now may not work for you 3 months later. That's why doing the assessments, continuous value stream mappings, it's never a one-time activity. You need to do that again and again to see where you want to be and how you want to go. So that kind of brings me to the end of this very quick presentation. I hope I was able to convey what I wanted to convey. Please connect with me offline, and we would love to see how we can brainstorm together, calibrate together what you are doing versus what we are doing, and learn from each other. So it will be wonderful. A road that a DevOps journey, a continuous improvement journey is never a straight road. And all roads look good, right? Like just like this picture. So everything sometimes looks good, like, and I want to take a deviation, but then what helps you in that type of a situation or in that type of scenario is right set of metrics. Am I going in no road is a wrong road. It will take you eventually to somewhere. But are you taking the road that you set out to, your goals and your objectives? These measurements are those milestones or those guard rails that will help you to keep you focused, although something else starts looking good, and it's very easy to get distracted and get deviated. So keep the focus on, but it's not that if you take a wrong road, it's not that you can't come back. It's just that you lose a lot of time and effort, but it's a lesson learned after all. You can go back and give it back to someone else who may be in the same direction and may learn a couple of lessons from you. So continue to experiment, continue to explore, continue to have the right set of metrics. And please let me know if there are some metrics that's really, really helping you. I would love to take it back from you and learn it from you. So thank you so much, and look forward to talking to you again sometime in the future. Thank you, guys. Thank you, DOS committee.